Hey y'all, I want to welcome you to a new episode of Crown and Convos, where every jewel you receive here gets you one step closer to receiving your crown from God. Now y'all, these jewels are not intended for you to just take, save them for a rainy day, but what you want to do is take them back to God and start your own conversation with Him, where He will provide you with insight, instruction, and increase. I'm your host, Aaliyah, and I'm so happy you're joining me today. So you guys, we are back to the episode, the series of Why Does God Make Us Wait? The last couple of episodes was about emotional intelligence, and now we are going to get to another reason why God makes us wait for the promises that He has told us that He will bring us. So one reason is because we're not ready to let go of the old. We're not ready to let go of where He has us at now. So I am currently in a season of transition. I noticed that I've been noticing that I was in a season of transition since early July. And I knew based off how I started feeling about certain people or certain environments. So one of the first ways God revealed to me that I was about to be in a season of transition was I wasn't beefing with my mom and my sisters, but our relationship was not the same. Like, something just wasn't right. I just wasn't feeling it, and I started isolating myself from them. And initially, like, it kind of felt uncomfortable, but God was letting me know that He was isolating me for a reason. Now, back at that time, I didn't know it was because I was in a season of transition. I thought He was just isolating me. And then as I'm moving in my transition, I noticed like my manager started getting on my nerves more, and I started having more issue with my current role, and just being aggravated. Like that's what God shows me about when I'm in a season of transition. I get aggravated by things that do not normally aggravate me because I know how to dissociate. So when my mom and my sisters get on my nerves, I live in my own house. I don't gotta deal with y'all, right? I deal with y'all outside of this house. I don't have to deal with y'all in my house. When it comes to my job, I only gotta deal with you really while I'm communicating with you, because I work from home majority of the time. I do go to the office sometimes, but nobody from my team is located where I'm at. So I'm in the office by myself, except for, other people within my company that work in the same office as me, but I don't have to deal with nobody on my team. So I really only have to deal with you aggravating as long as like we are directly communicating. Outside of that, I will close my laptop and go on about my day. I truly don't care, because for me, one of the big things for me is I can't give my job 90% of me, and then when I get to my son or when I get to my family, they get 10%. That don't fly with me. So my job gets what I can give them, because I need to make sure I'm saving myself for my son when he gets home. I want to have energy to interact with him. He's 5. I want to know how his day went. I want to, you know what I'm saying? So I don't give my job everything. So with that, you don't get all of my emotion. You're not finna have me aggravated and I'm mad for the next 2 hours. And then when I see my son, I'm easily frustrated from him just being a regular 5-year-old. No, we're not doing that. So you only can aggravate me as long as I'm in interaction with you. As soon as that interaction is done, I'm done with whatever frustration I was feeling. And that's the mantra that I keep when I'm working with people. Or, not just at work, but just in real life. So then they started aggravating me more. And then I found myself like desiring a change when it comes to my role, whether it was inside my company or whether it was with another company. I just found myself looking for more. And if y'all remember, there was a episode that I posted where I was looking for more work, but God stopped me because He wanted me to be more grateful for where I am, my current position, wanting me to learn more about what I do in my role, learning how to communicate with people differently, even wanting me to take advantage of the amenities of the office that I visit. Like, we have free food, we have free parking, everything is free. We even have a bar in the building. I get to make great communications and great connections with people that I do meet in the building. So I really take advantage of that before you be so ready to seek a change just because you want new or more. So when I found myself getting like that and starting to look for more work again, I knew then that I was in a season of transition. And if that wasn't enough, then I found myself ending a friendship with one of my friends. And I actually kind of took that kind of hard. I've only been friends with her for less than a year, but because I don't really make friends like that, and because I'm new to making friends and building and establishing these long-term connections and relationships with people, I wanted to make sure I was doing right. So I wanted to make sure I handled the friendship right. I handled exiting the friendship right. It wasn't no big thing, but for me, I'm a person who's very, very big on boundaries. And so you cannot talk to me all kind of ways. You cannot say all type of things to me. You cannot do me all kinds of ways, even if you mean well. I'm very big on respect. You have to respect my choices if they are different from yours. And she didn't necessarily understand that, which is fine, you know, but it just, in this season of life where I'm going, we can't really have that connection, that friendship. And if that wasn't enough confirmation, I met her at my son's karate school. Well, my son just stopped karate, so it's like I don't never have to see her again, right? So all of this happening all in a month span, it's kind of like, yeah, God is doing something behind the scenes. And because I know him and because I know how he works, I've just been allowing things to go as they go. So if I don't talk to my family, that's fine. I haven't talked to my sisters in weeks. I just started talking to my mom. And then to bring this up, remember my mom used to stay with me. So when she moved out, her stuff was still stored there, and she, you know, went and stayed where she stayed at. She just got the rest of her stuff out of my house. She got the rest of her stuff out of my garage, and I think she had some stuff up in my spare bedroom. She got the rest of her stuff. So if that's not enough confirmation of God moving me and me about to start new in a new place, in a new position, I don't know what is. It's just a lot of changes. It's like things exiting my life, things leaving my life. So that's how I know I'm in a season of transition. God is making room for the things that he's about to bring me into. And so I'm taking it with grace, but that's because I know God and I know how he moves. But what about those people who are new to a relationship with God and everything around you is going to hell? You just got fired from your job. Your boyfriend or your girlfriend just broke up with you. You beefing with your parents, so you have disconnected from your family. You falling out with your friends. You just don't know what to do. You just don't know what to do. This is when you lean on to God, because God is removing everything around you so he can bring you into a new place. Sometimes that isolation is because God wants to work on you and get you into a different place mentally and emotionally. And sometimes that move is a physical move. He's moving you into new territory, whether it be a new city, whether it just be a new living space, whether it be a new job. He's moving a new relationship. He's moving you into something new. And you have to be willing to let go of your norm, of your comfort level, so that you can see that. Because if you're so attached to the things and the people around you, you're going to be holding on to them things tight while God is trying to take them away from you. And what I do know is God is he's not going to fight with you for the stuff. You want to keep it, go ahead and keep it. But what you just did is you just delayed your next blessing. You don't want to let go of that boyfriend or that girlfriend. Okay, well, we're going to sit here. You were supposed to get that new job in May, but since you ain't let them go yet, maybe we'll try this again next May. Maybe we'll try this again in December. Right? That's how he works. He don't force nobody to do anything. If you have surrendered your heart to him, God will begin to move. When you're not surrendered, he's not going to force you, and he's not going to fight you for it. He's going to sit there and wait until you are ready to do what he is asking you to do. And so he gave me some examples about people who have had to move, and I want you to just think about their life had they not moved. And then I'm gonna give you an example of somebody who did move but did not necessarily let go of their old life. So Abraham, the call of Abraham, that starts in Genesis chapter 12. It says, verse 1, the Lord said to Abram, and this is before he got his name changed. The Lord said to Abram, go from your country, your people, and your father's household to the land I will show you. I will make you into a great nation, and I will bless you. I will make your name great, and you will be a blessing. I will bless those who bless you, and whoever curses you, I will curse. And all peoples on earth will be blessed through you. So Abram went, as the Lord had told him, and Lot went with him. Abram was 75 years old when he set out from Haran. He took his wife Sarai, his nephew Lot, all the possessions they had accumulated, and the people they had acquired in Haran, and they set out for the land of Canaan, and they arrived there. Abram traveled through the land as far as the site of the great tree of Moreh at Shechem. At that time, the Canaanites were in the land. The Lord appeared to Abram and said, "To your offspring I will give this land." So he built an altar there to the Lord who had appeared to him. From there he went on toward the hills east of Bethel and pitched his tent, with Bethel on the west and Ai on the east. There he built an altar to the Lord and called on the name of the Lord. Then Abram set out and continued toward Negev. He continued moving because he next went to Egypt. But look at all those moves he just made just then. Now imagine had he told God, "God, I don't want to move. Wait a minute, I don't want to move. I'm cool right here." Also, another example God gave, even now that I'm just thinking about it, is those times that God gives you a promise and he takes away. So God has now blessed you. You have now moved into your new territory, but then you have to move away from that territory. Or God has given you a job that he's blessed you with, but he is now moving you out of that job. What do? You still don't be attached to it. You want to be attached to God, not the things that he brings you, not the things that he blesses you with. You want to be connected and attached to him. Because I want you to think about Abraham in what is it, Genesis chapter 18, when he has to sacrifice Isaac. Isaac was the child that God promised to Abraham. So if you remember, God made a promise to Abraham and Sarah, hey, this time next year your child will be born. They're both in their 90s. They're thinking that this is just, there's no way that this could happen. However, the next year they have a son. They have the promise, Isaac. This is after they done tried to perform the promise on their own by getting Sarah's servant Hagar pregnant with Ishmael. But God made it clear that Isaac was going to be the one who the promise was fulfilled through, right? So when Isaac came aboard, that was that. But then God came to Abraham and told Abraham that he was going to have to sacrifice Isaac. And that's in Genesis chapter 22. So it says, sometime later, God tested Abraham's faith. "Abraham," God called. "Yes," he replied, "here I am." "Take your son, your only son, yes, Isaac, whom you love so much, and go to the land of Moriah. Go and sacrifice him as a burnt offering on one of the mountains, which I will show you." The next morning, Abraham got up early. He saddled his donkey and took two of his servants with him, along with his son Isaac. Then he chopped wood for a fire for a burnt offering and set out for the place God had told him about. On the third day of their journey, Abraham looked up and saw the place in the distance. "Stay here with the donkey," Abraham told the servants. "The boy and I will travel a little farther. We will worship there, and then we will come right back." So Abraham placed the wood for the burnt offering on Isaac's shoulders, while he himself carried the fire and the knife. As the two of them walked on together, Isaac turned to Abraham and said, "Father." "Yes, my son," Abraham replied. "We have the fire and the wood," the boy said, "but where is the sheep for the burnt offering?" "God will provide a sheep for the burnt offering, my son," Abraham answered, and they both walked on together. When they arrived at the place where God had told him to go, Abraham built an altar and arranged the wood on it. Then he tied his son Isaac and laid him on the altar on top of the wood. And Abraham picked up the knife to kill his son as a sacrifice. At that moment, the angel of the Lord called to him from heaven, "Abraham, Abraham." "Yes," Abraham replied, "here I am." "Don't lay a hand on the boy," the angel said. "Do not hurt him in any way, for now I know that you truly fear God. You have not withheld from me even your son, your only son." Then Abraham looked up and saw a ram caught by its horns in a thicket. So he took the ram and sacrificed it as a burnt offering in place of his son. Abraham named the place Yahweh Yireh, which means the Lord will provide. To this day, people still use that name as a proverb. On the mountain of the Lord it will be provided. Then the angel of the Lord called again to Abraham from heaven. This is what the Lord says. Because you have obeyed me and have not withheld even your son, your only son, I swear by my own name that I will certainly bless you. I will multiply your descendants beyond number, like the stars in the sky and the sand on the seashore. Your descendants will conquer the cities of their enemies, and through your descendants all the nations of the earth will be blessed, all because you have obeyed me. Right? So God is saying here, even the things that he has promised you, even the good things that he has told you, I'm going to bless you with this. This has your name all over it. Even those things you have to not be attached to. You need to be attached to God, his instruction, his heart, his guidance. You don't want to be attached to the things that he has promised you, because let me tell you, God shifts too much, and God sees things that we don't see. He knows the enemy's strategies, and a lot of the time the delays that God brings up are just based off him strategically moving around what the enemy has planned for you. God has promised you right here, this is where he's going to bless you, but the devil right here waiting for you. So God made you come all the way around here to avoid this mess right here. You didn't know that it was happening. So yes, even some of the things that God will have you detach from, he's saving you from something that you don't know about. So that's why I'm not attached to people anymore. I'm not attached to opportunities. If God tells me to drop everything right now, it's gone. I mean, y'all know how quick I am to drop my best friend. That's my husband. That's the man that I'm going to marry. God told me to stop talking to him right now. Done. No questions asked, because I don't want to delay my blessings any more than I already have. I am a huge reason why I am making this series of Why Does God Make Us Wait? Because God has had to show me the different levels of why he has had to wait where I wasn't prepared. He had to grow me in those places where I was not prepared. And he had to show me, daughter, this is why you can't have that. You're not ready yet. So I don't get attached to the blessing anymore. This job, this was a blessing. Remember, I went 7 months without working. This was absolutely a blessing. Not to mention my starting salary here. I wrote this on a journal in 2021, I believe, or maybe 2022. This exact job title, this exact salary, got it. And the fact that I can come to the office and get dressed up cute in my office wear, got it. Everything that I prayed for, I got it plus more. He answered my prayer, but guess what? When it's time to go, it's time to go. Let me give you an example of somebody who was not ready to go when it was time to go. Lot's wife turned into a pillar of salt. That is in Genesis chapter 19. I'm going to start at verse 10. No, I'm going to read the whole thing. So, the two angels arrived at Sodom in the evening, and Lot was sitting in the gateway of the city. When he saw them, he got up to meet them and bowed down with his face to the ground. My lords, he said, please turn aside to your servant's house. You can wash your feet and spend the night and then go on your way early in the morning. No, they answered, we will spend the night in the square. But he insisted so strongly that they did go with him and entered his house. He prepared a meal for them, baking bread without yeast, and they ate. Before they had gone to bed, all the men from every part of the city of Sodom, both young and old, surrounded the house. They called to Lot, where are the men who came to you tonight? Bring them out to us so that we can have sex with them. Lot went outside to meet them and shut the door behind him and said, no, my friends, don't do this wicked thing. Look, I have 2 daughters who have never slept with a man. Let me bring them out to you, and you can do what you like with them. But don't do anything to these men, for they have come under the protection of my roof. Get out of our way, they replied. This fellow came here as a foreigner, and now he wants to play the judge. We'll treat you worse than them. They kept bringing pressure on Lot and moved forward to break down the door. But the men inside reached out and pulled Lot back into the house and shut the door. Then they struck the men who were at the door of the house, young and old, with blindness, so that they could not find the door. Now, just to be clear, these men were angels. They were sent by God to destroy Sodom and Gomorrah. God wanted to destroy them because of all the wicked stuff that was going on. Now, if you remember in the chapter right before this, God first told Abraham, he saw Abraham as a friend. He first told Abraham that he was about to destroy this city. Abraham knew his nephew Lot was located there, and he pleaded with God to save him. He wanted to save his nephew, and so these men were sent on behalf of God to save Lot before they destroyed the land. Let's move forward. Verse 12. The two men said to Lot, "Do you have anyone else here, sons-in-law, sons or daughters, or anyone else in the city who belongs to you? Get them out of here, because we are going to destroy this place. The outcry to the Lord against his people is so great that he has sent us to destroy it." So Lot went out and spoke to his sons-in-law, who were pledged to marry his daughters. He said, "Hurry and get out of this place, because the Lord is about to destroy the city." But his sons-in-law thought he was joking. With the coming of dawn, the angels urged Lot, saying, "Hurry, take your wife and your 2 daughters who are here, or you will be swept away when the city is punished." When he hesitated, the men grasped his hand and the hands of his wife and of his 2 daughters and led them safely out of the city, for the Lord was merciful to them. As soon as they had brought them out, one of them said, "Flee for your lives. Don't look back and don't stop anywhere in the plain. Flee to the mountains, or you will be swept away." But Lot said to them, "No, my lords, please. Your servant has found favor in your eyes, and you have shown great kindness to me in sparing my life. But I can't flee to the mountains. This disaster will overtake me, and I'll die. Look, here is a town near enough to run to, and it is small. Let me flee to it. It is very small, isn't it? Then my life will be spared." He said to him, "Very well, I will grant this request too. I will not overthrow the town you speak of, but flee there quickly, because I cannot do anything until you reach it." That is why the town was called Zoar. By the time Lot reached Zoar, the sun had risen over the land. Then the Lord rained down burning sulfur on Sodom and Gomorrah from the Lord out of the heavens. Thus he overthrew those cities in the entire plain, destroying all those living in the cities and also the vegetation in the land. 26. But Lot's wife looked back, and she became a pillar of salt. When God is moving you, you have to not be so attached to the things that you are leaving. Because if your heart posture is not in a place to receive where God is taking you, what's going to happen is you're going to look back. You're going to want to grab people from the back. You're going to want to grab mannerisms from the back, behaviors from the back. You're going to want to grab opportunities from the old. God is trying to bring you into new things. So you have to be willing to let them go. So don't be attached to those things. Now, this part of the message, God gave me this morning when I was praying over my son going to school. So just being honest, my son had been having some issues with his teacher. And this is only I think the 4th or 5th week of school. But he began having issues with her the first week. And after a couple conversations with her, I began to have issues with her, because don't play with me like that. And don't play with my child like that. However, I know how to keep it real then until it needs to come out. And when it needs to come out, it's time to make some adjustments. And so I ended up having a meeting with her and the principals where it came out. And the principal made the decision to reassign my son in another class. Great choice. So since my son has been in that new class, he's not in the new class yet because this started last week. But today and yesterday, he was in a different teacher's classroom, not the old teacher. He hasn't been having any issues. None at all. He moves into a new teacher's classroom on Thursday, I believe. But as I was praying over him this morning, God lets me know sometimes he allows things to be frustrated, and he allows things to bubble up because he's trying to reveal something. He's trying to show somebody something. Now, with my son acting up, or with my son getting in trouble, God may have been trying to show me something about that teacher and let me know he don't need to be in her classroom. God could have been trying to show the school directors something about that teacher. She don't need to be there. She don't need to be his teacher. Right? But it just came out in association with my son and issues that he was having. And it takes me back to relationships. God will allow things to bubble over just to reveal things. And then when those things are revealed, God will move you. And when you are moved, you will realize why he had to move you out of that situation. You will realize why God had to adjust you in that way, but why you had to be frustrated in the process, if that makes sense. So like, for instance, I had the meeting with the school and the principal and stuff last Thursday. We had that falling out, so it was already decided then she don't need to be his teacher no more. But the next day was going to be my son's last day in her class, and he was going to start in a new class this week. That next day she had an emergency, so she wasn't even there. Right? So I knew then, God knew she did not need to be his teacher right now. Whatever issues that she been having and feeling, or whatever she got going on, God knew that she did not need to be his teacher. And heck, maybe God knew he didn't need to be in his class, right? Because those things, like, even though we want to make it seem like it's a bad thing, or God is trying to show us a bad thing, sometimes we just got to understand that things are not meant to be in each other's life, and we can't force it. So it doesn't make her a bad teacher. It doesn't make my son a bad student. It just means they weren't fit for each other. Right? And it's the same thing when God is moving you out of different things. It doesn't have to be a bad thing, because at one point it was a good thing for you until it no longer was. And when it no longer was a good thing for you, God separated you from it. Right? But all of these separations don't have to be a bad thing. You just have to look at it in a way of, that's not for me anymore, where God is taking me. For my best growth, for me to reach my highest self, I cannot be associated with this person. I cannot be associated with this place. I cannot have these mannerisms or behaviors attached to me. But you can't look at it as a bad thing. And as I was praying about that, God reminded me of the parable of the wheat and the tare and how they grow together. So this is in Matthew chapter 13. Let's start at verse 24. Jesus told them another parable. The kingdom of heaven is like a man who sowed good seed in his field. But while everyone was sleeping, his enemy came and sowed weeds among the wheat and went away. When the wheat sprouted and formed heads, then the weeds also appeared. The owner's servants came to him and said, "Sir, didn't you sow good seed in your field? Where then did the weeds come from?" "An enemy did this," he replied. The servants asked him, "Do you want us to go and pull them up?" "No," he answered, "because while you are pulling the weeds, you may uproot the wheat with them. Let both grow together until the harvest. At that time, I will tell the harvesters, first collect the weeds and tie them in bundles to be burned. Then gather the wheat and bring it into my barn." So sometimes most times actually, God allows those things to grow together until they can no longer grow together, and that's when he separates them. But like I said, it doesn't make this a bad thing and this a bad thing. It just means God no longer means for these two things to be partnered together anymore. God no longer needs for them to be teaming up. And so you have to be spiritually mature enough to see and understand that. Sometimes we be so attached to this situation or to these people, and we don't be willing to let them go and move on. And, this is one thing that I have to tell people when dating. Oh, because this is a good man and I should just stay with him. Girl, you can't be with every good man that's on this earth. Just because they are a good man does not mean they are the person that God designed for you. Does not mean they are good for you. Good is not God. God is good, but good is not God. So being a good person, I have to tell my girl, every good man can't be with you. Because I know I'm an amazing person. And guess what? The men who seek me out, they know I'm an amazing person as well. However, I'm sworn off to somebody. That's the only good man that I need. That's it. I don't need another good man. I have my good man. Right? So You have to understand every good thing. Just because it sounds like a good opportunity, just because this person is a good person, just because this seems like a good way of being, does not mean this is what God wants for you in the next season of your life. Do you want to stay where you are, or do you want to go to the next season? Because a lot of the times, people are not making it to the next season because they are not letting go of the past. They are not willing to let go of the former things. It's all through Bible how God is doing new things. God is constantly doing a new thing. A thing you ain't never seen. A thing you ain't never heard of. A thing your mind can't grasp. Be willing to let go all of the things that your mind can grasp so that God can surprise you. So that God can do something completely different and completely new in your life. I'm not attached to nothing. There's no person that I'm attached to. Now, that doesn't mean that I wouldn't be hurt by separations. Like I said, when I felt me and my friend disconnected, that actually hurt me a lot. And God knew that I was hurting about it, because what he ended up doing was, because the biggest issue for me was boundaries, God kept showing me videos on Instagram and on YouTube and Facebook posts and everything about boundaries. And God was letting me know, you didn't do anything wrong. It doesn't mean she did anything wrong neither. It just means that you guys are not meant to be in each other's life right now. And then one day that I was really taking it hard, one of my real close friend, she called me like 4 times that day. We was just talking about random stuff, but she kept calling me, and it almost didn't leave room for me to be sad, because she was very present. She knew I was going through this, so she knew how I felt. But she didn't know how much her calling me was healing me. How much I needed that. So, keep that in mind, that if you are too attached to the thing, God will not move you. And guess what? You can't fake it till you make it. You can't fake like you're not attached to something. You can't, y'all know how we like to try to act hard, like we don't care about stuff and we don't have feelings. You can't fake it with God. So you think acting like you don't want that job or acting like you don't want that person is going to get God to bring them to you quickly? Absolutely not. God knows your heart. God knows when you are doing things to have his hand, and when you are doing things because you genuinely have surrendered your heart and your will to him. You can't hide it from him. So be willing to let go of your old so that God can take you where he is trying to take you. And sometimes that letting go of something may be letting go of a person that God has blessed you with. Maybe letting go of an opportunity that God has blessed you with. But stick with him, because he knows and sees things that you do not know and see. He understands things on a level that we will never understand things. So he knows best. Trust that he knows best. Trust that he is preserving your promise. And one thing that I always remember is that God has said he has stored up his treasures in heaven for us. So our stuff is not down here getting old. We will never be too late for our promise. We will never be too early for our promise. We will never not be in the position we need to be to receive it when it's time. Don't matter how we look, don't matter how worn out we are, we will be how we are supposed to be, readily and maturely. We will be that when it's time to receive it, because God is going to make sure of it. So you just do your part and be willing and ready to be obedient when he calls for it. That's all. So when he say drop it, drop it. When he say pick it up, make sure you have a humble heart, because that's another thing about letting go of things. And a lot of the things that we let go of, it does not mean that it's permanent. But if you walking around with your tail up on your shoulders, like if I was walking around like that about my friend, about our being disconnected, what if God intends for us to be friends in the future? But and there's a blessing that is attached to that friendship at that time. There's something good attached to it at that time. But I'm walking around here mad, with an attitude, with a chip on my shoulder. I'm going to miss that blessing. So when God has you in a place of letting things go and he's moving you into new territory, make sure you stay humble. Stay humble. Now is not the time to be prideful. And I said this on my Instagram this morning. Now is not the time to be walking around with kiss my tail energy. Now is the time for you to be humble and do what you're supposed to do so you can make that a smooth transition. I've learned so much in my role, y'all. I've been knocking stuff down. I work in IT. I've been knocking stuff down. When God moves me, there are so many different skills that I can take into another IT role. But imagine if I had become so aggravated with my manager that I'm just like, man, forget this. I ain't finna do this stuff. I wouldn't have anything to take with me. And I wouldn't do well in that next place. And if God is taking me there, then he intends for me to do well. For however long he wants me there, he intends for me to be successful there. So when you realize that you are in a season of transition, do what you're supposed to do. No matter how much you may not want to do it, no matter how much it just doesn't make sense to you, do what you're supposed to do so that God can do what he's going to do. So, yeah, y'all, that concludes this episode of Why Does God Make Us Wait? You know, just keep yourself in a humble heart posture and be obedient to God. If he's telling you to let go of the old, let go of the old, because God does not crowd your space with old and new. He does not crowd your space. He needs the old pushed out so that he can move the new in, so that the new can be comfortable. So, you know, make space for it. Make space for your new. So, yeah, y'all, thank y'all for tuning in on this episode. I will see y'all on the next episode. Peace, love, and blessings to you all.